Maths Virus, Part 3. In this episode, I lay out how the 1914 trick is done. I start off with the Battle of Carchemish. I explain that Daniel 1:1 is a special verse to Watchtower and why. I also talk about the crazy things Watchtower do to Jehoiakim's reign, and that your understanding is turned to fog through their spin, and this leaves you vulnerable. I talk about the Antivirus Clamp, which stops their spin, and something which I called the Antivirus Question, which is about 2 Kings 24:12. And I explain that 8 years disappear between the reigns of Jehoiakim and Jehoiachin. I talk about what you're up against and how 7 scriptures, which I call the 7 Antivirus Scriptures, can defend you by stripping Watchtower of their identity as Jehovah's Witnesses. I talk about 2 witnesses and 55 years, and the Watchtower monster, and PMOs, those physically in but mentally out, who are robbed of their freedom of speech. Then, stepping through the Antivirus Scriptures, I look at 5 from Jeremiah 25, 1-3, and 2 Kings 25, 8-10, Jeremiah 1, 1-3, 2 Kings 24, 18, and 2 Kings 25, 1-3. Then I do 2 from Ezekiel 1, 1-3. Then the hammer blow to the Watchtower, the scripture they cannot recover from, Ezekiel 40, verse 1. I talk about the clamp or lockdown, how it works, how it brings transparency and clarity, the mind-numbing confusion that Watchtower causes, the role of 606 BCE, what they don't tell you when they study with you, that the answer is not 42, that 7 times are open to question, and when you study with them, your questions will never be answered. The trap you walk into, Beelzebub, Lord of the Fly, and how to kill their flies. Finally, that the Watchtower's governing body are wrong by their own reasoning. And there is a PS at the end about Chelmsford and the number 33. Previously, on Maths Virus 2, I explained that Jeremiah and Ezekiel really were Jehovah's prophets, and as such could be fairly described as Jehovah's Witnesses. The Watchtower's 1914 doctrine rests on arithmetic, which contradicts the words of Jeremiah and Ezekiel, and fundamentally changes the meaning of the numbers found at Daniel 1:1 and Daniel 2:1. Because of this, the Watchtower are opposed to the inspired statements of faithful Jehovah's Witnesses, that is, the prophets Jeremiah, Ezekiel and Daniel. As faithful ones, if these 3 Jehovah's Witnesses had been alive in Jesus' day, they, like the disciples, would have become Christians. So by opposing the words of the prophets Jeremiah, Ezekiel and Daniel, the Watchtower and its governing body are apostate to Jehovah's Witnesses and Christians. So the governing body have an identity problem. They are not Jehovah's Witnesses as defined by the words of the prophet Isaiah in the Scriptures. The authority of Watchtower's governing body rests on the date 1914. But the maths by which they arrive at that date is like a fog. But it's an unusual fog, because the more you look, the foggier it gets. That's because you are being subjected to a maths trick, which affects your understanding. Part of their trick is to change the 3rd year of Jehoiakim's rulership, spoken of at Daniel 1:1, into his 11th and final year, using the year 618 BCE. I ended part 2 by drawing attention to the importance of the Battle of Carchemish, because it is the Battle of Carchemish which proves that the 3rd year of Jehoiakim's vassal service to Babylon was his 7th year, not his 11th and final year. So let's pick up from that point. The Battle of Carchemish. Pharaoh Necho had defeated Jehoiakim's father, King Josiah, at Megiddo. It was Pharaoh Necho who put King Jehoiakim of Judah upon the throne. Thereafter, the kings of Judah were subject to Pharaoh Necho. But Pharaoh Necho of Egypt lost his power to King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon at the Battle of Carchemish. So Jehoiakim and Necho went along together for a bit. But in Jehoiakim's 3rd year, Nebuchadnezzar comes to the throne of Babylon, and he sets his sight on King Jehoiakim, and he struggles to get power over him. It's as if he determines, he's mine, I want him. Gimme, gimme, gimme. And in time, he gets him. At this point, when Nebuchadnezzar defeats Necho so as to get Jehoiakim, is the Battle of Carchemish. Nebuchadnezzar absolutely smashed the Egyptian power. Then he was able to take Jehoiakim. Ha! He's all mine! Mine at last! Ha ha! And for 3 years, Nebuchadnezzar has control of Jehoiakim. Then this happens. Oops! Jehoiakim rebels against Nebuchadnezzar. So these 3 years, immediately after the Battle of Carchemish, are the 3 years 2 Kings 24:1 refers to. These are the 3 years of Jehoiakim's vassal service to Nebuchadnezzar. Now let's review what has happened to the scripture at Daniel 1:1. How would Watchtower like us to understand it? Remember, this 3rd year is of special interest to them. And this is why. Because they would like you to read it like this. In the 3rd year of the incomplete kingship of King Jehoiakim of Judah, that is not his kingship, but the 3rd year of his service to King Nebuchadnezzar. King Nebuchadnezzar, no, not king. Crown Prince Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon came to Jerusalem and besieged it. There. So this is how the Watchtower thinks the Bible ought to have been written. What are we to make of this? Jehoiakim's incomplete rule lasted 3 years at the end of his reign. His complete rule, of 11 years, lasted about 10 years. The year 618 BCE lasts 8 years. The 1st year of Nebuchadnezzar's rulership is also known as his 19th year of rulership, but is a different date. It is followed by the 2nd year, which is really his 20th year, but they share the same date. Usually. The Battle of Carchemish, 625 BCE, which took place in the 4th year of Jehoiakim, that is the 1st year of Nebuchadnezzar, happened in the 7th year of Nebuchadnezzar's reign, in the year before he became king, while he was crown prince. So, it's as if we have tour dates for the Battle of Carchemish. Without knowledge of the scriptures, you can't see a trick is being played on you. It's as if you are in a fog and you need to be able to pin everything down so you know where you are and can get out of the fog. Because the meaning of the numbers and the words spin faster than your mind can follow, and the speed of that spin leaves you vulnerable to damaging mind games. because you could be convinced that you are confused about 1914, or that the faithful slave might be working on correcting this teaching to do with the reign of kings right at this minute. So the fog itself becomes a kind of virus, and you get told to wait on the governing body, rather than asking elders who can't understand the 1914 doctrine anyway, let alone work out what's wrong with it. You've lost me. I've lost myself. But there is a way to stamp out this virus by using an antivirus, which works like a clamp to prevent spin and bring clarity. This is the clamp, which is the antivirus. To make the antivirus work, you have to start it or initialize it, okay? You start it by asking a question. I'll call this the antivirus question. Whose 8th year is being spoken of at 2 Kings 24:12? Jehoiakim's or Nebuchadnezzar's? I'll read 2 Kings 24:12. At length Jehoiakim, the king of Judah, went out to the king of Babylon, he with his mother and his servants, and his princes and his court officials. And the king of Babylon got to take him in the 8th year of his being king. Well, big clue, Jehoiakim only ruled for 3 months and 10 days. But they mess around with his reign and say that Daniel was taken to Babylon in Jehoiakim's reign, not Jehoiakim's reign. I'll read what it says in the Insight books under Jehoiakim. Following the siege of Jerusalem during Jehoiakim's 3rd year as vassal king, Daniel and other Judeans, including nobles and members of the royal family, were taken as exiles to Babylon. There being no record of an earlier Babylonian exile, this appears to place the event in the short reign of Jehoiachin, Jehoiakim's successor. But they're saying Daniel went into exile in Jehoiachin's reign. That's the wrong king. If we look in the Insight books under this wrong king Jehoiachin, it says, it appears that Jehoiakim died during this siege, and Jehoiachin ascended the throne of Judah. His rule ended, however, a mere 3 months and 10 days later, when he surrendered to Nebuchadnezzar in 617 BCE. But don't confuse Jehoiachin with his father Jehoiakim. Daniel 1:1 speaks of Jehoiakim. Jehoiachin is the wrong king. Kim burns the scroll of Jeremiah and rules for 11 years. But Chin goes into Babylonian exile and only rules for 3 months and 10 days. So between these 2 kings, 8 years have been ripped out of time. And as these 8 ripped out years start, the prophet Daniel supposedly goes to Babylon in 617 BCE. Returning to the Insight book again, it says, Jehoiachin ascended the throne of Judah. His rule ended, however, a mere 3 months and 10 days later, when he surrendered to Nebuchadnezzar in 617 BCE. Well, here's our helpful chart as we make sense of all this. Now, where is the year 617 BCE in this? The first year of Nebuchadnezzar is 624 BCE, Let's see if we can work this out. Got to think hard about this. Here's a bit more from the Insight books. At the age of 18, Jehoiachin became king and continued the bad practices of his father. Jehoiachin's father, Jehoiakim, had been under subjection to Babylonian king Nebuchadnezzar, but rebelled in his third year of such vassalage, 618 BCE. This resulted in a siege being laid against Jerusalem. So the third year of his vassal service is 618 BCE. I'll put that over there. The expression, during that time, 2 Kings 24:10, may refer not to Jehoiachin's brief reign, but to the general period in which it fits, hence allowing for the siege to have begun during his father, Jehoiakim's reign, as Daniel 1:1 and 2 seems to indicate. Your Daniel 1:1 and 2 does say that. Oh well, put Daniel 1:1 and 2 over there then. I'll carry on reading. It appears that Jehoiakim died during this siege, and Jehoiachin ascended the throne of Judah. His rule ended, however, a mere 3 months and 10 days later, when he surrendered to Nebuchadnezzar in 617 BCE. Here, I put those bits over there. The 618 is with the father, and 617 is with the son. So, Jehoiakim ruled for 11 years and dies in the third year of his rulership. And that is how they make 8 years disappear from Jehoiakim's 11-year reign. Now, what were we trying to work out? Oh yeah, where is the year 617 BCE in this chart? Oh yeah, there. Of course. Well, it's one thing to view it as a bit of a joke, and yes, it is a joke. But you are up against this.
Don't contradict me, or I will tell everyone that you are mentally diseased.
And the congregation members will be confused, so they are unlikely to support you. Watchtower demands that you accept its maths and accept its dates. An intense pressure is put on you to submit to its authority.
Submit to my authority.
You cannot get this to admit it is wrong. But you can develop immunity to its lies and persuasive power. You can also get the strength and resolve to walk away from it. Yes, you can socially distance from it. The simple sums within the 7 Antivirus Scriptures are a defense. Eight years have been ripped out of time. So by asking the antivirus question, the 7 Antivirus Scriptures can get to work and prove that 2 Kings 24:12 is speaking about the 8th year of Nebuchadnezzar's rulership. They bring to light the mathematical trickery used by the Watchtower. And they prove that the prophet Daniel must have gone to Babylon in the 4th year of King Jehoiakim's rulership, after the Battle of Carchemish, to be in Babylon in time for Nebuchadnezzar's 2nd year of rulership, when he interpreted Nebuchadnezzar's dream. These scriptures also invalidate their very identity as Jehovah's Witnesses. So who are they? Like supporters of Korah opposing Moses, they become supporters of the governing body, opposing Daniel, Jeremiah, and Ezekiel. So by what scriptural right could they really disfellowship you as one of Jehovah's Witnesses? The time period that clamps them stretches from the 13th year of King Josiah down to the 25th year of Jehoiakim's exile. That is only 55 years. Now, the 55 years are battened down and clamped in place by two witnesses. Two of Jehovah's Witnesses, members of the house of Jacob. We already know one of those witnesses, the prophet Jeremiah. But we need a second witness, and we have one, in the prophet Ezekiel. Why do you need Jeremiah and Ezekiel? We've already seen from Jeremiah 25:1 that the 4th year of Jehoiakim is the 1st year of Nebuchadnezzar. But Watchtower's trick is a tale of two cities, and Jeremiah is speaking from the point of view of a Jew living in Jerusalem, and that allows the Watchtower to say this about the 3rd year of Jehoiakim's reign. To a Jew living in Babylon, Jehoiakim's 3rd year would have been the 3rd year of that king's vassal service to Babylon. Daniel wrote from that perspective. Jeremiah, however, wrote from the perspective of the Jews living right in Jerusalem. So they are adding perspective in an attempt to convince you that because Daniel is in Babylon, he would count the years of King Jehoiakim's reign in a different way to Jeremiah. In other words, Daniel would mean 11th when he said 3rd. Well, Jehovah inspired the prophets Jeremiah and Daniel. Would he count the years of King Jehoiakim one way in Jerusalem and another way in Babylon? No. Is there proof? Yes. A second witness in Babylon, the prophet Ezekiel. Jeremiah is the prophet in Jerusalem, but Ezekiel is the prophet in Babylon. By linking up the years of Ezekiel and Jeremiah, there is simple mathematical proof that Daniel, in Babylon, counted the years of Jehoiakim and Nebuchadnezzar in the same way as Jeremiah did in Jerusalem. The combined years of these two prophets, Jehovah's Witnesses of the house of Jacob, brings down the 1914 doctrine using the numbers 19 and 14. It is important to understand that it is Jehovah's Witnesses who bring down the 1914 doctrine, because many lose their faith in Jesus Christ when they see they have been fooled by the Watchtower. Watchtower's misuse of the term Jehovah's Witness gives them a false identity. It is very shocking for congregation members to discover that the Watchtower has been lying to them. It is as if they went for a walk in the woods where they thought they were safe. They took their compass with them. They did not abandon their conscience. Then this horrible thing turned up, and something happens to their friends and family. The horrible thing is a liar. It even pretends to represent God and seeks to gain control of people's minds. It takes a lot of courage to stand up to the Watchtower and save your sanity, even your soul. They'll dare to say that you are standing up against God's own representative.
I am God's representative.
No, you are a liar.
Where is your report?
For various reasons, some feel they have to stay in and pretend to be publishers. They put on an act. They wear a mask. But they have lost their freedom of speech, their parousia. The word parousia is Greek, and it means openly, frankly, i.e. without concealment, without ambiguity or circumlocution. This is freedom of speech, and it is essential for Christians. As Hebrews 3:5-6 reads, "And Moses as an attendant was faithful in all the house of that one, as a testimony of the things that were to be spoken afterwards. But Christ as a son over the house of that one. But we are the house of that one, if we make fast our hold on our freeness of speech, and our glorying over the hope firm to the end." Because this problem of dealing with liars is so difficult to deal with, Jehovah arranged for his faithful witnesses to write things up in a way that ensured strict data security. I'm going to step you through the words of Jeremiah and Ezekiel so you can see what the real picture is. According to the Watchtower, the first year of Nebuchadnezzar is 624 BCE. I'll put in the first 8 years of King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon's reign and the full 11 years of King Jehoiakim of Judah's reign. You can see that the overlap between the 3rd and 4th year of Jehoiakim with the first year of Nebuchadnezzar is very tight. Now we have to deal with Jehoiachin of Judah. His short reign has to fit into the 8th year of Nebuchadnezzar. There has to be room at the end of Nebuchadnezzar's 8th year for Jehoiachin's short reign of 3 months and 10 days. If I move Nebuchadnezzar's first year onto Jehoiakim's 3rd year too much, I begin to lose the connection between Nebuchadnezzar's 8th year and Jehoiakim's 11th year. And there's nothing left over from Nebuchadnezzar's 8th year to fit Jehoiachin's short rule into. There has to be enough time left in Nebuchadnezzar's 8th year to fit the 3 months and 10 days of Jehoiachin's rulership into. Let's put some more dates in. We're looking for consistency in simple arithmetic, not whether or not the date is actually correct. I'm going to say Jehoiakim's reign started in 627 BCE. That way, 624 BCE is the first year of Nebuchadnezzar. Let's quickly review which Antivirus Scriptures we have used so far. Verse 1 of Jeremiah 25, 1-3 linked the first year of King Nebuchadnezzar's rulership to the 4th year of King Jehoiakim. So we've partly done Jeremiah 25, 1-3. 2 Kings 25, 8-10 tells us that Jerusalem fell in the 19th year of Nebuchadnezzar. I'll read that scripture later on. But let's finish off Jeremiah 25, 1-3. We can skip verse 2, but verse 3 reads, "From the 13th year of Josiah the son of Ammon, the king of Judah, and down to this day, these 23 years, the word of Jehovah has occurred to me, and I kept speaking to you people, rising up early and speaking, but you did not listen." Jeremiah wrote those words in the 4th year of Jehoiakim's kingship. So, from the 13th year of King Josiah down to this 4th year of King Jehoiakim is 23 years. I need to line the dates up so 624 BCE touches the 4th year of Jehoiakim and the 1st year of Nebuchadnezzar. 2 Kings 25, 8-10 tells us that Nebuchadnezzar had a 19th year. But it's a year Watchtower play around with, and sometimes they call this 19th year his first year. They state that this year was 607 BCE, but at the moment it's on 606 BCE. So I need to add another year onto the 13th year of Josiah. I need to keep the 19th year of Nebuchadnezzar lined up with 607 BCE, so I'll just move all the dates sideways a bit. But it's okay, because I still have the 4th year of Jehoiakim on 624 BCE. Now I'll take the dates out, because the dates come from the Watchtower, not the Bible. What I have left are anchor points, which come from the Bible and hold this timeline in place. You can put any dates you want on this time period, but you can't change its length. So there you can see I have 3 anchor points, 2 from Jeremiah 25, 1-3, and 1 from 2 Kings 25, 8-10. The white line with the question mark marks the year which is the subject of the antivirus question. I'll remind you of that question. Whose 8th year is being spoken of at 2 Kings 24:12? Jehoiakim's or Nebuchadnezzar's? Well, going back to that white line, which marks the year which is the subject of that antivirus question, you can see clearly this is the 8th year of Nebuchadnezzar. But remember, this information is all from Jeremiah, and Jeremiah is speaking from the point of view of a Jew in Jerusalem or thereabouts. But we need to prove this from the point of view of a Jew in Babylon. So that's the first 2 scriptures all but finished with. The following 3 scriptures show that Jerusalem fell in the 11th year of King Zedekiah of Judah. This point at which the city fell was also the 19th year of Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon. I'll start with Jeremiah 1, 1-3. The words of Jeremiah the son of Hilkiah, one of the priests that were in Anathoth in the land of Benjamin, to whom the word of Jehovah occurred in the days of Josiah the son of Ammon, the king of Judah, in the 13th year of his reigning. And it kept on occurring in the days of Jehoiakim the son of Josiah, the king of Judah, until the completion of the 11th year of Zedekiah the son of Josiah, the king of Judah, until Jerusalem went into exile in the 5th month. Zedekiah's father was King Jehoiakim of Judah. His grandfather was Josiah. Zedekiah came to the throne after his brother Jehoiachin went into exile. So Zedekiah's reign starts as his brother goes into exile. And this all starts in the 8th year, which is the subject of the antivirus question. If we count 11 years from the end of Jehoiakim's reign, we get to the 19th year of Nebuchadnezzar when Jerusalem fell. But those 11 years are when Zedekiah was ruling. So Jeremiah preached from the 13th year of King Josiah through all 11 years of King Jehoiakim, who burnt Jeremiah's scroll, through the brief 3 months and 10 days of Jehoiachin's rule, down to the 11th year of King Zedekiah. Now let's confirm that Zedekiah ruled for no longer than 11 years. This is very brief. 2 Kings 24:18. 21 years old was Zedekiah when he began to reign, and for 11 years he reigned in Jerusalem. Next, 2 Kings 25, 1-3. 2 Kings 25, 1-3 shows that Zedekiah's 11th year was when Jerusalem fell at the hand of King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon. Now we know from 2 Kings 25, 8-10 that this 11th year of Zedekiah was the 19th year of Nebuchadnezzar. But this scripture confirms that Jerusalem fell in the 11th year of Zedekiah. And it came about in the 9th year of his being king, in the 10th month, on the 10th day of the month, that Nebuchadnezzar the king of Babylon came. Yes, he and all his military force against Jerusalem, and began camping against it, and building against it a siege wall all around. And the city came to be under siege until the 11th year of King Zedekiah. There's the 11th year, so that's when Jerusalem falls. You can see it's going to be easy to count all the years of Jeremiah's preaching. So, the city was under siege until the 11th year of King Zedekiah. But on the 9th day of the 4th month, the famine was severe in the city, and there proved to be no bread for the people of the land. So this 11th year of Zedekiah was really bad. But all you need to remember from that scripture was that Jerusalem was besieged by Nebuchadnezzar and his Babylonian forces until Zedekiah's 11th and final year. But I'll read you what happened next, because although it is shocking, it will help you to remember how final Zedekiah's end was. And the city got to be breached, and all the men of war fled by night by the way of the gate between the double wall that is by the king's garden, while the Chaldeans were all around against the city. And the king began to go in the direction of Arabah. And a military force of Chaldeans went chasing after the king, and they got to overtake him in the desert plains of Jericho. And all his own military force was scattered from his side. Then they seized the king, and brought him up to the king of Babylon at Riblah, that they might pronounce a judicial decision upon him. And Zedekiah's sons they slaughtered before his eyes. And Zedekiah's eyes he blinded, after which he bound him with copper fetters, and brought him to Babylon. Now I'll read 2 Kings 25, 8-10, so you know this is the 19th year of Nebuchadnezzar. And in the 5th month, on the 7th day of the month, that is to say, the 19th year of Nebuchadnezzar the king of Babylon, Nebuzaradan, the chief of the bodyguard, the servant of the king of Babylon, came to Jerusalem. And he proceeded to burn the house of Jehovah and the king's house, and all the houses of Jerusalem, and the house of every great man he burned with fire. And the walls of Jerusalem all around, the entire military force of Chaldeans that were with the chief of the bodyguard, pulled down. You might wonder if Zedekiah died in captivity. Yes, he did. And although it is not one of the Antivirus Scriptures, I'll briefly read you the verse Jeremiah 52:11 that confirms it. And the eyes of Zedekiah he blinded, after which the king of Babylon bound him with copper fetters and brought him to Babylon, and put him in the house of custody until the day of his death. Now let's recap and see what we've got. 2 Kings 25, 8-10 told us Jerusalem fell in the 19th year of Nebuchadnezzar's rulership, and 2 Kings 25, 1-3 told us this same year was the 11th year of Zedekiah's rulership. Well, here is everything we've got from Jeremiah. The 11th year of Zedekiah, the 19th year of Nebuchadnezzar, that Zedekiah ruled for 11 years, that Jeremiah started preaching from the 13th year of Josiah down to the 11th year of Zedekiah, and that from the 13th year of Josiah down to the 4th year of Jehoiakim was 23 years, and that the 4th year of Jehoiakim was also the first year of Nebuchadnezzar. As Zedekiah ruled for 11 years, Jerusalem fell in his 11th year, which was the 19th year of Nebuchadnezzar. Jeremiah preached from the 13th year of Josiah down to the 11th year of Zedekiah, and the 4th year of Zedekiah's father, Jehoiakim, was the first year of Nebuchadnezzar, and it was the 23rd year of Jeremiah's preaching. That completes 5 of the 7 Antivirus Scriptures. Jeremiah has given us a timeline. Now we turn our attention to the prophet Ezekiel. Ezekiel will make us think about Jeremiah's timeline by getting us to ask a question. Ezekiel was inspired to start his book talking about a 30th year. Well, you've got to ask a question about this 30th year. This 30th year is key to bringing down the 1914 doctrine. Why? Because it links the years of Jeremiah in Jerusalem with Ezekiel in Babylon. How? Because it is telling you that the 5th year of Jehoiachin's exile in Babylon was the 30th year. Ezekiel 1, verses 1 to 3. Now it came about in the 30th year, in the 4th month, on the 5th day of the month, while I was in the midst of the exiled people by the river Chebar, that the heavens were opened, and I began to see visions of God. So this is the 30th year. But the 30th year of what? Yes, it is the 30th year of something. But by saying it is the 30th year, Jehovah is getting you to do something. What? He's getting you to count backwards. 30 years from the 5th year of Jehoiachin's exile. So let's count backwards. We can easily count back 5 years and state with certainty that Jehoiachin's exile started in the 25th year. Also, we've got a lot from Jeremiah that we can work with. Jeremiah told us that Jehoiachin ruled for 3 months and 10 days, so his rulership can't be the one referred to at 2 Kings 24:12. Let me just remind you of the missing 8 years. Date-wise, Watchtower ripped out everything after Jehoiakim's 3rd year of rulership and threw in another year 3 at the end of his reign. Then they filled in the gap with a lot of 618 BCEs. But we know Jehoiakim ruled for 11 years, and that his 11th year must end in Nebuchadnezzar's 8th year, because his 4th year is Nebuchadnezzar's 1st year. And there's just enough room left in Nebuchadnezzar's 8th year for Jehoiachin's brief 3-month and 10-day rulership, before he, Jehoiachin, is taken into exile in Babylon and replaced on the throne of Judah by his brother Zedekiah. This marks the start of Jehoiachin's exile in Babylon. And the 1st year of Jehoiachin's exile would be the 1st year of his brother Zedekiah's rulership. And the 5th year of Jehoiachin's exile is Ezekiel's 30th year. If we take 5 away from 30, we get 25. And that's year 25 of Ezekiel's 30 years. And that is when Jehoiachin's exile started. So it looks like we have a link to Jeremiah's words. So let's continue counting backwards through the timeline Jeremiah gave us. If we look at this close up, you see the 4th year of Jehoiakim and the 1st year of Nebuchadnezzar, which is Jeremiah's 23rd year of preaching, lines up on Ezekiel's 18th year. I'll run this back. The first year of Ezekiel lines up with the 6th year of Jeremiah's preaching. So what this allows us to do is count forward with the years of Josiah's reign. Now you can see Ezekiel's 30 years start at the 18th year of King Josiah's rulership. And that was the year Josiah destroyed the high places and promoted true worship. And the Passover was held as described at 2 Kings 23, 22 and 23. Now this isn't one of the Antivirus Scriptures. I'm reading this so you have a clear picture. For no Passover like this has been held from the days of the judges that had judged Israel, nor all the days of the kings of Israel and the kings of Judah. But in the 18th year of King Josiah, this Passover was held to Jehovah in Jerusalem. So the 30th year is the 30th year after the 18th year of Josiah. This 30th year is also the 5th year of the exile of King Jehoiakim. Look closely at the years of Jeremiah and Ezekiel. Now we have a constant 5-year difference between the years of Jeremiah's preaching and the years of Ezekiel. How come? Because Jeremiah's preaching started in the 13th year of Josiah's rulership, and Ezekiel's 30th year is 30 years after the 18th year of Josiah's rulership. So if it is the 6th year of Jeremiah's preaching, it must be the 1st year of Ezekiel's 30 years, because 6 minus 1 equals 5. And if it is the 23rd year of Jeremiah, it must be the 18th year of Ezekiel, because 23 minus 18 equals 5. Well, Jeremiah continued preaching longer than 23 years. So the 30th year of Ezekiel would be Jeremiah's 35th year of preaching. 35 minus 30 equals 5. Therefore, this 5th year of Jehoiakim's exile, which is Ezekiel's 30th year, is 30 years after the 18th year of Josiah's kingship, and 35 years after Josiah's 13th year. So from the point of view of a Jew, Ezekiel, living in Babylon, the 8th year of Nebuchadnezzar is 25 years after the 18th year of King Josiah's rulership. To a Jew living in Jerusalem, that is, Jeremiah, the 8th year of Nebuchadnezzar is 30 years after the 13th year of King Josiah's rulership. So you see, time in Jerusalem and time in Babylon is grafted together like a tree graft, and the graft is on the 30th year. There it is, there's the graft on Ezekiel's 30th year. And the graft actually starts on the 30th year of Jeremiah's preaching, which is the 8th year of Nebuchadnezzar. And now that you understand this, you are ready for the final bit. Jeremiah said, "And the king of Babylon got to take him in the 8th year of his being king." Well, that's the antivirus question. Whose 8th year is it? And this from Jeremiah, who wrote those words from the perspective of a Jew living in Jerusalem. Well, we think we can confidently say this is the 8th year of Nebuchadnezzar because it was Ezekiel, a Jew in exile in Babylon, who said that the 30th year was the 5th year of the exile of Jehoiakim. But we still have one assumption based on Jeremiah's words. That is, assuming the 5th year of Jehoiakim's exile really is the same as the 5th year of Zedekiah's rule. We got the information about Zedekiah's rule from Jeremiah. Jeremiah was writing from the perspective of a Jew living in Jerusalem. Ezekiel was the Jew living in Babylon. Is there a way to prove the 5th year of Jehoiakim's exile? Is the 5th year of Zedekiah's rulership from the perspective of a Jew living in Babylon? Yes. The proof comes from the final antivirus scripture. Ezekiel 40, verse 1. This scripture is the death blow to the Watchtower. The authority of Watchtower rests upon the date 1914. But she falls because of the authority of God and his use of the numbers 19 and 14. Let's bring up the Watchtower's dates. Let's give them what they want. Allow them to say that Jerusalem fell in 607 BCE. Let us allow them to say 618 BCE is the final year of Jehoiakim's reign, and that 624 BCE is the 4th year of Jehoiakim and the 1st year of Nebuchadnezzar. Let's bring in Ezekiel's 30 years and line up the 30th year with the 5th year of Zedekiah. Now, the hammer blow. Ezekiel 40, verse 1. In the 25th year of our exile, in the start of the year, on the 10th day of the month, in the 14th year after the city had been struck down, on this very same day, the hand of Jehovah proved to be upon me, so that he brought me to that place. So, in the 25th year of our exile, in the 14th year after the city had been struck down. There's the 19. It's the 19th year of Nebuchadnezzar. There's the 14. It is 14 years after the 19th year. This is what takes the Watchtower down. Well, why? Well, firstly, you can see that the 5th year of Jehoiakim's exile is the same as the 5th year of Zedekiah's rulership from the point of view of a Jew living in Jerusalem and Babylon. Because this is correct, yes, there is a constant 5-year difference between the years of Jeremiah's preaching and the years of Ezekiel. Secondly, it seals the answer to the antivirus question. Yes, we knew all along whose 8th year this was, but this seals the matter, because the 19 is the 19th year of Nebuchadnezzar, and 19 plus 14 equals 33. That is the 33rd year of Nebuchadnezzar. Ezekiel 40 and verse 1 has told us that this 14th year after the city fell is also the 25th year of Jehoiakim's exile. So, 33 minus 25 equals the 8th year of Nebuchadnezzar. There's the 8th year. It is the 11th year of Jehoiakim. He dies. His son Jehoiakim rules for 3 months and 10 days. Then he, Jehoiakim, is taken into exile in this same 8th year of Nebuchadnezzar's rulership. Now we have the clamp that stops Watchtower's spin. The clamp comes from the years of Jeremiah's preaching and the years of Ezekiel. It is the fact that there is a constant 5-year difference between them. So this is how time in Jerusalem and Babylon link up. The words at Jeremiah 25:1 were initially our only authority, but now we have Ezekiel's words to back it up too. And Ezekiel was in Babylon. So now each king's reign has to be verified against the years of Jeremiah's preaching and the years of Ezekiel before any date can be ascribed. Now the year of anyone's rulership will likely straddle more than one calendar year. For example, 6 months in one calendar year and 6 months in the following year. Therefore, if 625 to 624 BCE on the Julian calendar is ascribed to the 4th year of Jehoiakim's rulership, 625 to 624 BCE must first be ascribed to the 23rd year of Jeremiah's preaching, which is the 18th year of Ezekiel, who was in Babylon. And that brings transparency to tricks like this, where 1 year becomes 8 years long, or the 19th year of Nebuchadnezzar's rulership is followed by his 2nd year of rulership. Well, now that you see the importance of the years these prophets spoke of, we can say Daniel must have gone to Babylon between the 22nd and the 24th year of Jeremiah's preaching. So let's say the 23rd year. Well, that is the 18th year of Ezekiel. Having set this date, all other dates in this 55-year period are set, both in Jerusalem and Babylon, from the 13th year of King Josiah down to the 14th year after the fall of Jerusalem. A period of 55 years, where you know that the 30th year of Ezekiel is the 5th year of Jehoiakim's exile, which is the 5th year of Zedekiah's rulership, which is also the 13th year of Nebuchadnezzar's rulership. And 6 years later, Jerusalem falls in the 19th year of Nebuchadnezzar's rulership, which is 41 years after the 13th year of King Josiah. Now you can count all these years, that is, do an overall count. And using that count, you can give each year a unique identity number. I'll call the unique identity Year ID. Now I've talked you through what Year ID is, so you know I have simply counted the number of years in this 55-year period. The Year ID is just a count from 1 to 55. The year Jerusalem falls is the 41st year of Jeremiah's preaching. That is Year ID 41. And it too has the 5-year difference to the years of Ezekiel. So Year ID 41 is the 36th year of Ezekiel. A Watchtower wants that date to be 607 BCE. But that means the date 618 BCE must be the 25th year, 5 years before the 30th year. This is the only place 618 BCE can go. Look more closely. Watchtower wants 618 BCE to be the 3rd year of Jehoiakim's rulership. Well, the 3rd year of Jehoiakim's rulership is back here, just before the 23rd year of Jeremiah's preaching. Remember I said this was really easy? You might be feeling it's not. But remember this. Jehoiakim's 3rd year is followed by his 4th. And that's the level we're at here. Look. Just as Jehoiakim's 3rd year is followed by his 4th year of rulership, so Jeremiah's 22nd year of preaching is followed by his 23rd year of preaching. And that 22nd year of Jeremiah's preaching is the 3rd year of Jehoiakim's rulership. And we know that the 4th year of Jehoiakim's rulership is the 1st year of Nebuchadnezzar's rulership. And the 4th year of Jehoiakim is 23 years from the 13th year of King Josiah. Well, if that 4th year is 23 years from the 13th year of King Josiah, and the date 624 BCE is given to that year, what justification can Watchtower come up with to say that the 22nd year of Jeremiah's preaching, which has a constant 5-year difference to the years of Ezekiel, is 618 BCE? This is where they start stretching 618 BCE to make it 8 years long. Let's go back to the big chart and shift 618 BCE to where 624 BCE is. Now look what has happened. The 41st year of Jeremiah's preaching, which is the year Jerusalem fell, has become 599 BCE. So the next question is this 41st year of Jeremiah's preaching the 19th or the 1st year of Nebuchadnezzar's rulership? Note, it is the 41st year of Jeremiah's preaching and year ID 41. If it's the 41st year of Jeremiah's preaching, there's no way it can be the 1st year of Nebuchadnezzar. But if it is, then it must be the 23rd year of Jeremiah's preaching, just as Jeremiah said. Do you see what's happening now? The date has shifted. I'll show you. All I have to do is pull 599 BCE onto year 23 of Jeremiah and the year ID 23. Now, is 581 BCE the 41st year of Jeremiah's preaching? So, is 581 BCE the 19th or the 1st year of Nebuchadnezzar? Their dates are pure chaos. You can go on and on stating absurdities like this to the point where you can actually rip out at least 67 years out of history. You can play all sorts of games with this, but you can do it without anybody noticing or daring to challenge you because it's so mind-numbingly confusing. Although this mind-boggling movement is going on with the 3rd and 11th year of Jehoiakim and the 1st and 19th year of Nebuchadnezzar, it is vital to the Watchtower that the year following 607 BCE, that is 606 BCE, is the 2nd year of Nebuchadnezzar's rulership. They want you to believe that the 2nd year of Nebuchadnezzar's rulership is the year that follows the destruction of Jerusalem, which took place in the 19th year of Nebuchadnezzar. Remember this? Well, this is how they want the dates to look. And if you study with them, this is how they seek to convince you. They show you a diagram like this, which describes the dream Nebuchadnezzar had about a tree that the prophet Daniel interpreted for him in the 2nd year of Nebuchadnezzar's rulership. So although they don't express it like this, fundamentally they are trying to get you to accept that Daniel interprets Nebuchadnezzar's tree dream 42 years after the 13th year of King Josiah's reign. Maths teachers, graduates in physics and chemistry, accountants, and a hairdresser have all refused to do the sum which follows. Some of these people were professionals. The sum is simple, and I mean really, really simple, but I'll run through it quickly, and even though it is simple, you may want to write down the sum and do it quietly in your own time. So ask yourself, if it is 41 years from the 13th year of King Josiah down to the 11th year of Zedekiah, which is the 19th year of Nebuchadnezzar. So if that's 41 years, you can see the big yellow bit shows all 41 years. How long is it from the 13th year of Josiah down to the 2nd year of Nebuchadnezzar's rulership? So 19 years of Nebuchadnezzar minus 2 years equals 17. Well, we're going to take 17 years off the big yellow bit. The big yellow bit is the 41 years of Jeremiah's preaching, and we're going to take 17 years off it. Now here's a clue to the answer. Okay, as if you needed it. But here's a clue. If the first year of Nebuchadnezzar's rulership is the 23rd year of Jeremiah's preaching, what year of Jeremiah's preaching is the 2nd year of Nebuchadnezzar? Now, let's do the sum. 41 minus 17 equals what? 42? They want you to think the answer is 42. The answer is not 42. The answer is 24. 41 minus 17 is 24. So the date 606 BCE shifts around. Just watch the diagrams. Watch it move. This is extraordinary. There, see? Now the date actually moves. And if that's not enough, even the 2,520 years is open to question. They say the 2,520 years is the equivalent of 7 times. And they call these 7 times the Gentile Times. Of Revelation 12:14 is used to calculate the length of a time, where it speaks of time, times, and half a time. This is interpreted by Watchtower as 3.5 times, because they say times is 2 times. By cross-referencing to Revelation 11 verses 2 and 3, you find that time, times, and half a time are 1,260 days. So you divide 1,260 by 3.5 to get 360 days as the length of a time. Next, you times these 360 days by 7, which gives you 2,520 days. Then, applying the idea of a day for a year, you get 2,520 years. A Watchtower says these 7 times start in 607 BCE when Jerusalem falls, and they end 2,520 years later in 1914. Well, what if times is not 2? It might not be. It could be 3, 4, 5, 6, and so on and so forth. So whatever number you choose to set times to, you add 1 and half to get the number that I'm putting in the sun there. So if you're saying time times and half a time is 8.5, that means times is 7, because 7 plus 1.5 is 8.5. So you could divide 1,260 days by 3.5, as Watchtower does, to get 360 days, or 4.5 to get 280 days. 5.5 gives you 229.1 days. 6.5 gives 193.8, and 7.5 gives 168 days. The higher the number in the sun, the lower the number of days in a time. Let's take 168 days and times it by 7. You get 1,176 days. Divide that by the number of days in a year, 365, and you get just over 3 years. Note, I have divided 1,176 by 365 days because there are 365 days in a year. I am not dividing by 360 because 360 days is not the length of a year. Well, these 7 times don't just pertain to 1914, but also the length of time for which Nebuchadnezzar actually lost his ability to understand. So the 7 times for which Nebuchadnezzar lost his understanding could have been just over 3 years, rather than 7 years, or nearly 7 years, which is what it would be if a time was 360 days. There are points in Nebuchadnezzar's reign when he had to have been able to rule, so he had to have had his understanding. He had to have been able to understand for the 3 years Jehoiakim served him. Also his 7th year when he took 3,023 Jews into exile, and his 8th year when he took Jehoiakim into exile and made his brother, Zedekiah, king of Judah. He must have been able to understand in his 17th to 19th year of rulership, when he eventually destroyed Jerusalem. And Nebuchadnezzar reigned for over 40 years. But there are only certain points in his reign where the 7 times, the period he was driven away from men and lost his kingdom, could fit in. But the dream about the heaven-high tree, which Daniel explains is about Nebuchadnezzar losing his kingdom and becoming mad or losing his ability to understand until 7 times has passed, is spoken of at the end of Daniel chapter 4. It could still be the 2nd year of Nebuchadnezzar. However, Daniel chapters 2 to 4 cover many events, such as Meshach, Shadrach and Abednego being rescued from the fiery furnace. Once Daniel has interpreted Nebuchadnezzar's dream, 12 months pass before Nebuchadnezzar is driven away. So 12 months of sanity, in other words, Nebuchadnezzar being able to understand things, 12 months of sanity immediately after the dream, and 7 times of having no understanding and his losing his kingdom have to be positioned into Nebuchadnezzar's reign. It's during those 7 times of having no understanding or no sanity that Nebuchadnezzar's kingdom is removed from him. So a dream, which even by their own reckoning occurred in 606 BCE, is considered effective as prophecy from the year before this dream occurred, that is, 607 BCE. But Watchtower considers 606 BCE to be the 20th year of Nebuchadnezzar's rulership, which is the 2nd year of Nebuchadnezzar's rulership, as spoken of at Daniel 2:1. But it's open to question whether they think the dream occurred in either the 2nd or the 20th year of Nebuchadnezzar's rulership. Could have happened some other time. Do you understand all that? No, it's not clear. And neither is any of this. It's like a fly you can't catch. And it's like a cheese grater on the mind. But if you start to study with them, you have no idea what underpins the 1914 doctrine. These pictures here are from a video on jw.org, which is currently used to explain the 1914 doctrine. The video on jw.org shows what happens when you study with them. You get told about the cut down tree and the 7 times. Now, in reality, it is likely the one teaching is confused by the 1914 doctrine. He cannot properly explain it and hopes the householder will not ask difficult questions. On the other hand, the householder does not imagine he is being deceived by someone apparently so virtuous. He doesn't know the Bible well enough to ask the right kind of questions to reveal the deception. So the study conductor asks him, "Does that make sense?" "Yes," replies the confused householder. But he never asks the study conductor if it makes sense that the 19th year of Nebuchadnezzar's rulership is followed by his second year of rulership. Instead, the study conductor says, "I know it's a lot to take in, but does that explanation make sense?" And the householder replies, "I think so, but I still have some questions." Actually, the householder is overloaded with information. It is information he is not familiar with. Every alarm bell should ring, because here's the trap. His questions will never be answered. Now I'm going to repeat that. His questions will never ever be answered. He cannot imagine anyone who has spent all this time reasoning with him from the Scriptures would ever prove so unreasonable. And this one may not be so unreasonable, but the organisation, the media company, Watchtower, that which he represents is. So there's the trap. Or you might get asked if you have a mathematical mind. Because if you don't, well, probably you don't understand this nonsense because you're a bit stupid. Like the king's new clothes. Only someone very intelligent can understand this. Yeah. Well, this video can be seen on the official website, and as I've already shown you, it's called A Tool to Help Us Explain Our Beliefs About 1914. And if you wonder which magazine you can find that chart in, they were using this one from November the 1st, 2014, which asks the question, "Is Satan real?" How ironic that Beelzebub means Lord of the Fly. And the way to deal with his flies is to get out your Bible spray and squirt them with scriptures. All you have to do to stop these flies is take the dates out. And that just leaves the years of Jeremiah and Ezekiel. Now, nothing shifts around. It's clamped. It's locked down. Onto this you can add year ID, which is also the overall count, showing that this is a period of 55 years. Now, you can experiment putting dates in if you want, but I'm not going to do that. However, if you are interested in Bible dates, a friend of mine called Tadua has done a lot of work on this. You can find his carefully researched information on the website called understandtheword.com. But returning to this 55-year period without dates, using just the years of Jeremiah's preaching and Ezekiel, but by using this method, you are able to prove Watchtower wrong in their own literature by their own words. Now, in order to justify changing the meaning of Daniel 1:1 and Daniel 2:1, that is, in order to justify this rubbish, they must now find a cross-reference in the Bible. But none such exists, and whichever way they try, they are wrong by their own reasoning. So these words of Isaiah apply to them. For the couch has proved too short for stretching oneself on, and the woven sheet itself too narrow when wrapping oneself up. Well, be that as it may. What are you to do? Now you know the 7 scriptures which prove 1914 wrong. A con trick has been played on you. Are you powerless? Watchtower is not an organisation of either Jehovah's Witnesses or Christians. Individual publishers may or may not be Christian. But just because Watchtower is a powerful corporation, it does not mean it represents Jehovah. Nor do its appointed managers or overseers have any right, based on Scripture, to imply that you are the wicked one. The opposite is true. They are the wicked ones because they have submitted to the power structure of a media company called Watchtower. They have put a media company in place of both our Father Jehovah and his Son Jesus Christ. And they have misled people about Jesus Christ's teachings. 1 Corinthians 5:11-13 reads, "But now I am writing you to quit mixing in company with anyone called a brother, that is a fornicator or a greedy person, or an idolater or a reviler or a drunkard, or an extortioner, not even eating with such a man. For what do I have to do with judging those outside? Do you not judge those inside while God judges those outside? Remove the wicked man from among yourselves." And Titus 3:10-11 reads, "As for a man that promotes a sect, reject him, after a first and a second admonition, knowing that such a man has been turned out of the way and is sinning, he being self-condemned." So you have to act. You have to quit mixing. You have to do the removing, and you have to do the rejecting. On making this episode of Maths Virus, I came across videos linking the number 33 with the Order of Jehovah's Witnesses and the Knights Templar. The video presenters talk about Building 33 at Chelmsford, which is supposedly built where a Knights Templar building called Old Orders stood. Building 33 looks like it could be one of 2 buildings, and it begs the question, does this Building 33 even exist at all, really? From the maps you can see that Building 33 is not built on the Old Orders site. But the land does have historical connections to the Knights Templar. Watchtower double-cross people. The double cross is a Knights Templar symbol, and you can see it here on the seal of the Crusader kings of Jerusalem. A double cross monument used to be close to where the JW.org roundabout is. Google pictures associated with that JW.org roundabout show the white silhouette of a builder making what looks like the 666 sign. Well, whether there is a 666 connection or not, you have seen from this video that the number 33 is central to bringing down Watchtower's authority, which is based on the date 1914. I have seen other information about Knights Templars, the 33-degree Freemasons, and the UN, whose symbol is made of 33 sections with the suggestion of a double cross at the centre. So maybe there are more organisations than just Watchtower who will be affected by the fact that number 33 means that the words of the prophet Daniel stand unchanged. The seal of the Crusader kings of Jerusalem bears the double cross of the Knights Templar, and in the centre is the Tower of David. Potentially this is a watchtower with 2 watchers or knights on top. Or maybe they are 2 people looking in different directions. or the same person looking in different directions, because in the Song of Solomon a person's neck is compared to the Tower of David, but the neck is what turns the head. Perhaps the Tower of David on the seal is supposed to be the neck turning from Christianity to Islam. I don't know. Now I'll end on this thought. If your neck is in the hands of Watchtower, they can turn your attention away from the Bible and onto their own literature. I have found most, maybe all, of their false doctrines can be traced back to something called Theosophyism. It's also called Theosophy. Well, Sufism is a kind of Islam. I touch on this matter in the next video in this series, where I tell you what happened to me when I stood up to the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society and told them that their doctrines were wrong. So that's what's coming next in Maths Virus 4.